it's Microtech BB. We got something kind of cool that arrived in the mail today. We got the new Virtue board for the Tippmann A-5 EGrip. Not a lot of people have seen this yet. I'm pretty excited about this. This way, I can stop getting emails from everybody. If my gun shot 10 balls per second, I'd mow you on the airball field. Okay, well now you can go buy a Virtue board and we'll see you at the Mid-Atlantic Open. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and take a look at inside the box, see what's inside here. We've got some specific instructions for the A-5 for installation, pretty easy. Also comes with a nice little push button, so that way you're not out there in the woods trying to find a stick, trying to push your button on. Obviously inside here it's got a board and the sticker, which I've already put on the hopper. So it's going to kind of blow the minds of some of my woods ball friends. You're going to be like, why you got a Virtue sticker on your A-5? Oh, you're going to find out in about 5 minutes. So pretty easy installation. If you're, obviously if you've owned your A-5 for any period of time, you already know how to take apart your grip frame, because you need to take it apart in order to get to the battery. So let's go ahead and move the camera in a little bit closer, and I'm going to show you how to install this board. What we'll do here is let's go ahead and remove the three push pins. There's two that are holding in your grip frame. You just hammer these out. The two that are holding in your grip frame, and the one that's holding in your tombstone up front. So let's go ahead and pull these out. 1, 2, 3. And set those aside. And of course, this isn't really a modification you want to do at the field. You want to do this at your house over a clean carpet. This way, if anything falls out, you can easily find it. And now we have your grip frame removed. We've got your three push pins put aside. You don't really need the gun for anything else here. Let's go ahead and let's start removing the screws. There's 3 screws that hold the grip frame together. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and set these aside. And we need an Allen key to remove the ASA. Now on the new Select fires, they have the battery can just pop out of the back. I don't think Virtue's made a board yet for the Select fire. But on the old E-grips, on the standard E-grips, this is what you have to do. So let's go ahead and carefully pull this last screw out. Out it comes. There we go. Now we can remove the ASA, and then now what we're going to carefully do is lift the two halves apart. Let's go ahead and pull out the safety, and let's go ahead and remove the battery. There we go. Okay, so we've taken it apart, and obviously if you've owned an E-grip, you've done this 100 times, just because you need to get down to this in order to swap out your battery. Now probably one of the biggest things you want to be really careful about is your trigger pack. This is very easy for this to come apart. It's not really that big of a deal if it comes apart. You just have to carefully put it back together again and ensure that it works. But always want to make sure that your trigger pack stays together, and just go ahead and set that aside. Now the next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and remove the battery. And while we've got the battery out, a really good battery to use is the like the Duracell Ultra M3s. You always want to put really high quality batteries into your Tippmann A-5, whether you're using the stock E-grip or using the Virtue board. I definitely recommend using high quality batteries. One, these solenoids definitely pull a lot of power, and two, you don't want to be doing this every couple cases. You want a good battery that's going to last you a really long time. So now that we've got the battery out, let's go ahead and remove the board, and out it all comes. We'll set that aside. Let's go ahead and open up our box, and we'll pull out our push button, and we've got our baggie here, and now we've got our Virtue board. So now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and install this back into the gun. And I'll share a couple tips when you're installing this back into the gun. One, you're going to see a wire groove already cut into your grip frame down here at the bottom. Make sure that all of your wires that go to the capacitor and the solenoid go down into this little notch that's been cut into the grip frame. The next tip I'm going to share with you is in regards to the wire here. When you put your battery on here, you want to make sure that your battery sits down as low as it possibly can, and that the shelf, and that there's nothing above this little ridge right here. Okay, this ridge is where the trigger pack sits, and if you have any wires pressed up against there or anything like that, or any part of the battery higher than this ridge right here on the corner, what's going to happen is your pack is going to sit up at an angle, and you're not going to be able to get your trigger frame back on. So make sure that there's nothing above that ridge, and that your battery is sitting down nice and flush, and that when you go and set your trigger pack on here, it sits on that ridge. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to take the supplied push button and go ahead and put that into the groove. This way you don't have to use a stick or an Allen key in order to turn your gun on anymore. Okay, so that all looks like it's been installed properly. Now the solenoid rod, you don't really have to try to put this in here now. You can if you want to, but you can actually, after you put the two halves together, you can go ahead and slide it in and then do the trigger pack. So let's go ahead and let's do that last. So now we have this installed properly. Let's go ahead and just take a look at it, make sure everything is pushed in place. Everything looks flush. Nothing looks out of place. See, the wires don't go above the shelf. Looks like everything looks good. So let's go ahead and put the two halves back together. And anytime you're taking apart electronics, you know, this is always a good idea to look. If you notice that one part of the electronics kind of bulges out, that's usually a good indication that you have a pinched wire. In this case, it looks like it's all put together pretty well. You know, don't see any bulges or anything like that. It looks like a pretty good seam all the way around, so I think we're safe to go ahead and torque this down. This is something else too, especially with these direct mount ASAs. I'll give you guys a quick tip. You know, the A-5 owners, definitely put a little drop of tri-flow in here. It's going to make it a lot easier screwing your tanks in and out. Definitely recommend getting some tri-flow in there. Okay, now that we have all four of the screws put in, let's go ahead and install the solenoid rod. And this should just go right down the channel. Okay, you just want to make sure that this goes up and down freely, which it does. Now we can install the trigger pack. And we can install the safety. There we go. Now let's go ahead and test it out really quick. Just make sure that it turns on okay. It's good to me. Turn off the safety. So far so good. Okay, now that we have the rod in place, the trigger pack's in place, let's go ahead and push the safety. It's going to make it a little easier to install it back on our gun. First thing we'll do is drop in the tombstone. Let's go ahead and push in the push pins. Let's tap these in. There's one. Two. And three. All right, now let's go ahead and turn it on. And it's on. Let's cock it. Let's see. Turn off the safety. So far, so good. So now what we'll do is we're going to read the manual, and we're going to set it to PSP 10 balls per second, and we're going to take it out into the backyard and shoot it. Okay, so now what we did was we set this Virtue board at PSP 10 balls per second. So we're just going to go ahead and turn it on. Okay, turns on. Cock it. Let's shoot it. Shoots great, no problems with it. If we want to set it to, let's say, NXL, Virtue's got very easy programming. Boot it up really quick. We'll send it to NXL. Purple 1, 2, 3. So NXL full auto. So now it's 1, 2, 3, hold the trigger. There you go. So for some of you guys that enjoy the shooting, full auto in the tournaments, and also with the Virtue board, the max rate of fire is capped at 15. Shouldn't need much more than that. So that's about it. So if you have any questions, visit virtuepaintball.com. Thank you.